Welcome, everybody. This is the Beer Guys Radio Show. We should do the whole show NPR style. Welcome, everyone. This is the latest episode of Beer Guys Radio.
Have you tasted my sweaty balls?
My sweaty balls. They're very moist.
Yeah. Oh, these are really good. I really want to put these balls in my mouth.
What a way to start the show. I said NPR, not SNL skit.
Oh, well, I don't really listen to NPR. The only NPR I know is
point?
SNL, and it's all Alec Baldwin, basically.
I saw, do you guys remember that Folgers commercial? Nate. Brian, did you reset the router?
I didn't, no.
Okay, because we've already had a dropout here. So I think
should we kick it off?
Our connection is
we don't
want to do that.
Okay,
so.
damn it.
Yeah, we don't want to do that, but there's an old Folgers commercial from I think the 80s probably where it shows like it's one of their Christmas time commercials.
Commercial.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wait, what?
So,
what?
Yeah.
There's a knock and why'd he knock at the door if he was coming home?
Yeah, he's their son. Like.
It's so weird. So this guy like knocks on the door and this girl runs up excited and opens the door and I don't know, you're back and he's like, yeah, it's a long ways from West Africa, so they make a point to point out he's coming from West Africa, and then they go into the kitchen and their brother and I think she says sister or something, like they set the stage pretty soon that they're brother and sister, but they go in, she's like, here, I brought you something, from a land far away, and she's like, oh, and like giving him all these looks and doe eyes and stuff, and she puts the bow on his chest and he's like, hey, what's that? She's like, you're my present this year.
Oh, wow.
And then they kind of and they're just looking.
Then a deep, passionate kiss.
Yeah,
and fade to black.
So it's just famous for this brother and sister acted really creepy. And some comedy troupe did a spoof where it ends right there, and the parents walk in, and she's like, what are you doing back here? There's a reason we sent you to West Africa. So.
Oh, gosh.
The best part of waking up.
The best part of being deported.
Never
mind.
Yeah. I don't think they could deport him, though.
Oh, it's true. Probably not.
Yeah,
I don't know. Oh, yeah. I guess you
not
really
how that
can't.
works.
No, I guess you can't do that. You can't just say, you know what? You suck. You're out of the country.
Yeah. But here, this is the cheers, Steven. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. We're getting a start here talking about old Folgers commercials.
That's right. The creepiest ones we can find.
Creepiest old Folgers commercials. But yeah, this is Beer Guys Radio. We talk mostly about beer here most of the time. Got some fun topics this week, Brian.
Sure. We definitely do.
Kick off. So yeah, we're just going to get rolling here. If you have any questions, comments, leave them in the chat. We're going to do a little bit of radio, and we will. I better get that figured out. That one always stumbles me. And we will be back in just a few minutes.
Open up a tab, grab a seat, and pour a pint. It's time for the Beer Guys Radio Show.
You want free beer? Go to the brewery.
Dedicated to the art, science, and enjoyment of craft beer.
Yo, what's wrong with the beer we got?
Now, here are your hosts, Tim Dennis and Brian Hewitt.
And welcome to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We are broadcasting from the Beer Guys Radio studios in Marietta, Georgia. This week, we're talking about beer, Brian. We've got a variety of topics to cover. Cool stuff to talk about.
Imagine that, us talking about beer.
The Beer Guys talking about beer, current events. I'm Tim Dennis, for those that don't know. And I'm here with my friend, my co-host, Brian Hewitt.
I almost jumped in to introduce myself I don't know why I had that impulse. I think we did a commercial.
We should change it up some, though. We've been using that intro for a while.
It works. So, hey, Tim. That's right. We've got a lot to discuss. We've got hop supply issues. We've got new hops. We've got how selling out is somehow still a punk thing to do, and a whole lot more. The show is going to be equal parts hoppy and punk. So it's
hoppy and punk, huh?
Yes, correct.
If there's one thing that people think when they look at us, it is punk. Definitely.
Oh, for sure. We'd be even more punk if we got into a partnership with AB and Bev.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the punkest move of all.
I mean, I can't think of a punker way to go.
I was an attempted skate punk when I was younger. I think punk is a lifestyle, so some may call me a poser. I guess, but I felt it at the time, so I guess it was legit. But
Did you actually skate? Is my
oh,
question.
absolutely. Yeah, I skated, I wore whether they were Vans or I had Vision streetwear shoes, I wore my metal shirts, or I had the like Bones Brigade, the Pal Peralta shirts. I even had like a tall spiked mohawk, Brian. So pierced ear, spiked mohawk. A lot of people don't believe when I say that, but
Safety pin through the ear?
yeah,
Okay.
I did that, or through the jeans,
All right.
writing in black Sharpie, different band logos and stuff on there.
Now, there are some people that did the look but didn't actually skate, and those people are definitely posers. But if you
Yeah.
actually skated,
I skated, I listened to the music, I dressed the part. I was as punk as I could be.
I don't think there's any question as to that being punk. I knew people that would hang out, and basically what they would do is go hang out at the quote unquote smoking church near the
smoking church.
Yeah, the smoking
All
church.
right.
It's a church near the campus that was kind of attached, so you could get over there, and they would be over there smoking, dressed up like they were skaters. I never saw them skate.
That wore
Yeah. Skaters, and I did like some of the stuff that they wore. So I did wear what was it, Airwalks?
Airwalks. We were
I like
talking
those
about
shoes.
those.
I did.
They're
and
still
I
around,
still,
Brian.
Yes, apparently that is now owned by J.C. Penney, which sounds bizarre and old, but I still like those shoes. I looked at them just the other day, and I'm like, I considered buying them, and they look like the same price as they were when I bought them back in the day.
That's hard to beat.
Yeah.
See, my skate punk phase is when I discovered Jenny Cream. So that was when I was up in New York. So good things came out of that. Discovered the beauty of Jenny Cream.
Yes, punk leads to good things.
It
like
does.
beer.
Brian, I believe this is born of a Twitter conversation, but I think an Untapped post actually on Twitter talking about discontinued beers. And to be honest, there's a lot of them that I can't recall that I would want to come back. But what are some beers that aren't with us anymore that you'd love to see rise from the dead?
Well, we talked about these. I think it may have been this weekend, or maybe it was on a previous show, but Boulevard's Coffee Ale. I think Coffee Ale came up as a result of the King Cake discussion.
Talking pastries,
yes.
Right.
And Harvest Dance. When I think of those two, I can't think of one without thinking of the other. Another one I'd like to see come back is Weyerbacher's Sunday Morning Stout. That came to mind thinking about that. I'm like, man, that was such a great beer. And I think that initially it was very popular, but I think that there were so many barrel-aged beers out there that people forgot about it. But that was a bang for your buck beer.
I was going to say, if I remembered, the price on that one compared to quality was great.
Yes, as
Reddit PPO, right?
Yes, as Reddit like to point out, it was an ideal price per ounce for that. And in these days, we need a good PPO beer. Unfortunately, I don't think that helped Weyerbacher out too much.
It was checked by the PPO police.
That's right.
It passed.
It did.
So, one for me, Brian, and this may be cheating a little bit, but Sweetwater Exodus Porter. And it does make appearances at special events. It was on at 420 Fest, and they recently had their anniversary, and it was on there. But that's one I'd like to be more readily available. They do variants of the coffee version of that is really good. But Exodus Porter is just a really great, a good drinking porter. So I'd love to see that one on the shelves again.
I agree, and I think the Great American Beer Fest also agrees with you, because I think they got like a gold medal for it, or they got some sort of medal for it, and almost immediately discontinued it because I guess our market here, which was the only one I think it was available in for quite a while, just didn't support it, which is a shame. But I don't think a porter's ever going to have, well, I can't say never, but hasn't in a long time had the same kind of hype that an IPA will have, which is why Sweetwater has a bunch of different IPAs, but very few porters. So.
Well, the thing is even if you're the greatest of your style and you're a medal winning beer, if you're not selling, then it doesn't make business sense, which is why it appears on the taps at the tap room or at special events. Yeah. It's like, hey, it's still a good beer. It's just not something. And, Sweetwater's a larger brewery. They have to think about a fairly large distribution footprint.
Sure.
It just doesn't make sense to keep it going.
They got a schedule to make, a lot of beer to put out there, and it does make sense, and it does make it more special, and you're going to drink more of it when you see it if it shows up at special events. So I do appreciate that they will bring something like that back.
Yeah, and so is it cheating if you do like one-offs as beers you want to come back? Like here in Georgia, Terrapin had their side project series that they did some really Dos Cocos, if you remember that.
Oh yeah, Dos Cocos. Yeah, that was a good one.
And related, Brian, to what we're going to be judges, we've been invited to judge at the Wake and Bake Off for Terrapin that they're having here in Atlanta. So pretty cool. They take their Wake and Bake Stout, and in celebration of that, we've got some Wake and Bake to drink tonight. But they did a lot of one-offs for Wake and Bake too, like cinnamon rolled.
Yes, that was a
recall
great
that
one.
one. That was really, they did a tiramisu. I think that was Muhu.
That's
tiramisu, right?
Yeah, tiramisu. Yeah, I think that's right.
But those were good. A lot of really nice kind of one shots, especially with stouts. You know, they'll dress those up and do a nice one-off pastry release.
Those were back in the days when your special releases still came out in 22-ounce bottles, and if they're really special, they got wax dipped.
They did.
And I think the cinnamon rolled wake and bake had scented wax. I think it might have been 2 layers of scented wax.
I personally complained to Spike, the founder and owner of Terrapin, about the wax on his bottles because it was just ridiculous to try and get the wax. And I love the presentation of that, but you almost needed a chainsaw to get the wax off those Terrapin bottles.
The scratch and sniff bottle, that was funny. You know what? I probably still have one in my cellar, and it's probably not doing so well because they weren't really high ABV beers. They were just special releases. But well, you know, Tim, I think it might be time for us to get into the beers of the week before we run out of time.
Before we run out of time, beers of the week, Brian, we've got some good ones to get into right now in celebration of the season, Brian. We're drinking a Abita's Mardi Gras Bock, which is actually nice toasty drinking one. We need to get our king cake still. We haven't acquired king cake, and we'll have to get out for some. We discovered that neither of us really know what Mardi Gras is I don't know if that's the Fat Tuesday or the season in general, or I think they said it goes to Ash Wednesday, but it may just go to Black Tuesday. We don't know, to be honest with you.
Yeah, all I know is there are beads involved, and you know, there's king cake apparently, and I don't know.
Beads, body parts.
I think so. Certain streets in certain towns,
parades and all that stuff. But anyhow, Abita Mardi Gras Bock, which is really nice. We're drinking that now. We do have the Terrapin Wake and Bake, just the basic Wake and Bake that we're going to get into. We have the Terrapin Maple Pecan Praline Wake and Bake. That sounds intense.
Yes.
So I'm curious to get into that. I think we talked about pralines or pralines, however it's said, recently, didn't we?
Probably.
They're pretty intense, very rich. And from 105 West Brewing Company, we've got their triple, you know, so we'll check that out and see what's going on.
Sounds refreshing.
Yeah.
And that was one I got as a gift, like a beer of the month type of thing from my sister and her husband. So that was pretty nice. I'm like, oh, okay, random beer. I'm like, well, let's give it a shot.
How are you liking that beer of the month thing? Because I know those can be hit or miss.
It's been pretty good. The first time around, I was all on top of it. I picked out the stuff I wanted sent, and they were pretty good options. And this next time around, they showed up. I'm like, oh yeah, it's a little bit like BMG where you got to select your CDs.
Yes.
Otherwise, they just send you whatever, or you opt out or whatever. So a little bit of a roll of the dice. But the tiki themed sour we had, Humble Forager, I think last week, that was from them. Okay. And that was an unexpected treat. I really like that one, and we'll see what the other ones are like.
Your first case of beers is a penny, then after that it's $400 a case.
Exactly right. Yes, correct.
You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We're going to take us a quick break, but we will be right back after this. All right.
Oh, we got some comments. Yes.
About discontinued beers we want to see brought back.
Pete's Wicked Ale. Oh yeah, that's been a minute. There's some other ones we've been told about when we have guests on. Like, tell them to bring back such and such. And I'm trying to remember. Oh, I can't remember what the beer was that I heard a lot about. Oh, Steven knows. Oh, the pulled porter. Oh, okay, I remember that. That was one of the later.
Oh, Wake and Bake Off is this Sunday, huh?
Yeah, it's this Sunday.
This Sunday. I'd forgot the day. I was thinking the 28th. I'm like, no, I don't think that's right. I don't think that the dates work.
You've got the 28th like frozen in your head for some reason.
I don't know why. I don't know why, but it's locked in there. Pete's Wicked. I don't know if I ever had Pete's Wicked.
I think I did back in the day, and I didn't drink a lot of it. It was kind of a.
Steven, I disagree with your pulled porter. Not a fan. Did you like that one?
I remember thinking it was pretty good.
Yeah.
But I like kind of smoky beers.
So. Tyler, thanks for stopping in, man. Cheers to Texas from Georgia there. We're just talking. Is there a beer? We were just talking about discontinued beers that we'd like to see come back around.
Oh, everything from let me think here. Bridgeport. The Bridgeport ESB. I'd love to see that come back. Bridgeport ESB, Bridgeport Porter. I want it to rise from the grave.
Yeah, rise from your grave.
And arrive here. That would be nice. And Henry Weinhardt's was a deceased brand that has risen from the grave, and it's being brewed by some brewery in Oregon, and I forget where I read about that. But I wouldn't have mind having that again, because Henry Weinhardt's Private Reserve was probably the first beer I ever had, or one of the very first.
Ballard's Bitter. I don't think I had that one. I don't think I had.
Sounds
Ballard's
familiar.
Bitter.
I don't know that I had that one either.
I did two homebrew pulled porter. Yeah, I know the folks that like the smoky ones enjoyed that, and that was a collab with Fox Brothers.
Is that what it was?
They smoked the malt for him that they used in there.
I just remember that being fairly recent in the series, and or like later on in the series. Are they still even doing those?
I was just thinking, I don't know if I've had a dank tank in a while.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something that I know they still have the dank tank, but maybe that's just for the tap room.
You know what? I think I've seen tall boy cans occasionally, so I think they might still do it now.
Yeah.
That it comes to mind, but it was a little bit more striking when it was a big 22 and it had a giant artwork on it.
Yeah.
The cans are, say there was some variation
These
of
are fine.
sticky nugs or something like that.
Oh, fresh sticky nugs. I think that's a pretty regular one to come around. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if is that a dank tank, or am I getting confused? I don't actually know.
I think they release it as a dank tank.
Okay.
And I know wait, is that the So Fresh and So Green?
Yeah, I'm thinking that's Terrapins.
Is fresh sticky nugs is the dank tank release?
I think so.
So Fresh and So Green is Terrapins
I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's right. But I kind of get
Pete's Wicked Strawberry Blonde. Pete's I don't know that I had any Henry Weinhardt's either.
It showed up. It made, so when I was drinking it, it actually was a brewery in downtown Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
But it got bought out by Anheuser-Busch, I think in like 99, 98, 99, somewhere in there. And eventually they shut that down and moved production elsewhere. But
Henry Weinhardt sounds like a brewery from the 90s.
Yeah.
Like the name is not a very modern name.
They were around for a really long time. So, yeah, and it was available. It got national distribution for a while. We actually got it here, and I bought it for about 5 minutes, and then it disappeared. Like, it didn't last very long at all.
I was trying to think, when I first moved to Atlanta, I lived here a bit in the late 90s, moved away, and came back in 2000. I was going like a year, maybe a year and a half. But Red Brick was the big one, local. Really, yeah. That was the one we saw around everywhere. And I remember Flying Dog was popular
that was huge
time.
Here.
So that's the apartment complex I lived in. They do pool parties for everybody, and we normally have a keg of something from Red Brick, and then usually some. Was it Raging Bitch?
That's the one I was going to look up. Is that like an amber? Because I remember really liking Raging Bitch.
Yeah.
And being amused by the name. Hang on. I've got Untapped here. Let's find out.
I think that was just before. I guess Sweetwater would have been around at that time because Jailhouse was not around.
They weren't?
In 97?
No.
So yeah. So they were like a 2006, 2010, somewhere in there. Yeah, really until maybe 04, Brian, there was probably less than 10 breweries in the state. Stephen Pete probably knows this. He probably has it in his brain wiki there. So
yeah, he would have been.
I know I have the
on the
info
scene,
written down. I can reference it, but I just don't recall. But it was a lot of it was getting later into the 2000s before we saw much. You had Terrapin, Sweetwater, Red Brick, Atlanta Brewing Company. A few brew pubs scattered here and there. Twain's has been around a while. I forget, but they've been around a while. Max Lagers has been around a long time.
Oh, the Park Brewery or what?
Park Tavern.
Tavern. That's been around for a while. Max Lagers.
And they don't even really unless you're a beer person, you don't really know them for their beer. And that's even the owner told us, he's like, I just like beer. It's not something. The Park Tavern here in Atlanta, it's in our big park, Piedmont Park, and their thing, he said he's a wedding venue, and oddly sushi makes them a good amount of money there of all the things. So
yeah, they do have a big spot there, and they got
Yeah.
a nice view of the park, so I can kind of see them as a venue. Sushi's
Sure.
an unusual thing.
I mean,
but-
they're big enough that in the winter they have a space they turn into an ice rink for ice skating. You know, they're big enough to do that. So.
yeah. What style do you think Raging Bitch from Flying Dog was? I think you'll
Well,
be surprised by
You've
this.
already planted Amber L into my head, so I want to stick with that Amber L.
Apparently it was a Belgian IPA. Do you remember those? That style?
Yeah,
That's what they're claiming.
was it?
That's what's in Untapped, and that doesn't seem right to me. But around the time I was drinking that, the Belgian IPAs were kind of a thing. There's also Snake Dog IPA. Let me see what else they've got.
Well, we had the white IPA moment.
We did, but
which
the
I
Belgian
think-
IPA predated that.
I think the white IPA just kind of moved on into your hazies.
Kind of,
It
yeah.
kind of got consumed by that branch of IPAs.
I guess this is still a very popular. Raging Bitch is a very popular one for them. It's still like according to Untapped by frequency of check-in, it's their number one beer. So that's interesting.
Okay.
And I'm looking through the rest and thinking maybe I'm getting it confused, but I'm pretty sure it was that one. And that's crazy. I haven't had a Belgian IPA in a minute. So
Yeah.
now I need to see if I can find that. I don't even know know how easy it is to find that around. That used to be a staple though.
I enjoyed some Belgian IPAs. One of the Belgianizing of beers that I didn't care for, I've not found many or any Belgian stouts that I really liked. I don't like the Belgian character in the stout profile. So just not my thing.
Don't care for that Belgian chocolate.
What?
Well, I was thinking chocolate is a characteristic of a stout and the Belgian qualities. So Belgian
But
chocolate.
Belgian chocolate doesn't taste like
That's true.
it's been fermented by Belgian yeast.
That's a fair point. It's a fair point. So I was really just being an idiot.
Well, you confused me.
I'm
So
glad I
it's-
did.
Yeah.
And that
All
is
right.
reward enough.
Well, I'm going to get into this tripel that we have here. Strong
Does-
tripel.
Does it
Go
say
quad
Bel-
things
okay.
go getting dark. Yeah, see Belgian
Strong
Ale.
ale, but triple. Okay. Seems like that's a kind of a
No, I guess maybe it's not stating a style, is just what it is.
okay.
Because a triple is a fairly strong Belgian ale.
I think that but I think in some cases you would think the opposite, but I think Belgian triples can be higher ABV than a quad or your Belgian strong ale. I think in some cases.
But a Belgian quad is typically called a BDSM, a Belgian dark strong.
Strong dark. Yeah,
Yeah.
true. Yeah,
You
wait.
didn't catch it.
B-
I just went with it. BDSA, Belgians are BSDA, Belgian strong dark ale, dark strong ale.
I like my
Not the
cans
other
all
one.
clad in leather. Yeah,
Right.
restraints. Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's all about consent, Brian. May I drink you?
The can just says yes.
Yes.
Does it not? Oh, all right.
This is nice though. This is tasty. This is tasty.
Yeah, hang on. So this was 105 West. I wonder if I put 1050 in there. 105 W. 105 West Brewing Company. They're triple. All right, let's see what this is. Their beers.
Beer. All right, let's do it. Let's get back to it.
I want to point out their number one beer when I was looking through this is a beer called D's Nuts. Just an FYI.
From that brewery?
From this brewery, yeah. I had no idea this. Again, I'd never had one of theirs before. So.
Inappropriate.
Yes. Oh, man.
We have a brewery here in Georgia that when they opened, they, for real, named themselves Left Nut Brewing Company. And last year, after several years, they rolled it out for a while. They really tried to defend that name, but they became Liquid Nation Brewing Company so that, they were able to keep their initials there. But I believe we expressed early on, dude, this name.
I agree
not
with
a
that,
good
but
call.
also there were some other breweries out there, and I forget which two, but I wanted them to do a 3-way collab with other breweries with nut in
I
the
think
name.
we're going to stop now. I don't think we're going to move forward with this.
I don't remember.
discussion.
I'm sure there was something very spicy at the end of that.
We're off the
story.
rails a little bit for us already this week. So, all right, let's do it.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
What in tarnation?
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Remember, all episodes are available on demand. So if you missed the broadcast, get the podcast. Beer Guys Radio is available on the Podcast Park and all popular and unpopular podcasting apps. Now let's get back to the show.
Brian, you've got some interesting information to share with us on hops.
Yes.
And the hop harvest and what is planned for the market there. And you know what? I'm going to steal a little bit of your thunder here. You were going to ask the question, where do you think we are with hops here these days? Do we have a shortage or is there a surplus? No, Mike, Nate, what do you think, man?
Yeah.
Do we have too many hops or not enough?
I would think that we have too many hops.
Okay, fair enough. Nate is correct.
I would have actually, before reading this, I would have thought there was some sort of shortage in terms of hops in some level, but I just assumed there was always a shortage and people were always looking for more hops.
So you know what? I would give my 2 cents on this, but Brian, you actually have some data here that can be said much better than I would. So why don't you share the news with us here on what is up with hops?
So according to Bart Watson, the Brewers Association's chief economist, the U.S. hop supply is, quote, unsustainable, and brewers should be prepared for a market correction. Apparently the hop supply, the actual availability of hops, has outpaced hop usage for more than 6 years, and we should expect them to reduce the supply in the future. We're in a period of relatively static but record high production, 110 million pounds of hops annually. The hop overall oversupply is a result of contracts signed during the boom years between 2010 and 2018. So people were signing contracts to ensure they got the hops they needed. So hop growers had to make sure they had that availability if the people wanted them. Of course, apparently people aren't going to honor all their contracts or buy everything. I don't know how the contracts work, but I guess they don't have to buy everything that's available to them. So the hop growers are sitting on a lot of supply in their barns, and it's going to become a real problem. So growers end up having more on hand than they end up needing. So it's been offset a little bit by other places that want U.S. grown hops, but it's not by enough. So brewers' hop stocks have been declining in recent years. So even the breweries are not keeping as much on hand as they previously had been. So we're expecting, Bart Watson is expecting a reduce from the 110 million pounds of hops annually to probably about 100 million pounds annually. So about a 10 million pound drop per year, which may mean that you may not be as easy for brewers needing a hop to find it. So these days they say you could just ask the brewery down the road, hey, I need this hop, I ran out, and they probably have some. That's probably going to change.
Well, we've seen ups and downs of this cycle, and I don't remember the exact year, but there was a time there was a hop shortage, and Sam Adams stepped up, and let some breweries get some of their hops at the cost there, because it was enough of a shortage that it could have closed breweries, just not having the ingredients to be able to brew. Then we've had a boom period here. We know that very well. We've also seen breweries closing. We're seeing closures there. And this is something that a couple years ago, when we had Bart Watson on the show, he said we're going to start seeing this. This was pre-pandemic. And as we've mentioned before, call it good timing, bad timing. I don't know what you'd say, but when the pandemic hit and government funds became available to keep businesses going, there were probably some breweries that would have closed 2 to 3 years ago that got another 2 to 3 years of life there.
Sure.
But now we're at a point where, the market hasn't changed. It hasn't gotten better, in 2 to 3 years. So we're at a point here where we're starting to see, lower productions for certain breweries. There's more breweries, so people have more choice. And it's not whether or not a brewery is a good brewery or not, but if you've got, if 5 years ago you had 5 breweries to choose from and you split your time equally, and now you got 30 breweries to choose from and you split your time equally, then everyone's going to be a little lower than they were 5 years ago when they were one of only 5 breweries on the block. So,
Sure.
so we're seeing that as it slows a little bit, and the projected growth and people buying hop contracts well beyond what they needed because they didn't want to miss out. Here we are, Brian.
Here we
Here
are.
we are.
Now here's the crazy thing. Do you think that by hearing this, you think that the use of hopping is down in beers, right? Like that seems to imply that, right?
Okay, here's my speculation. I would say no. I would say there's still a lot of hops being used, but production got ahead of usage there, would be my guess. Because from what I recall, looking at like sales volumes and that, there's still slight growth. So people are still drinking more beer.
Yeah.
And we know IPAs, and those are still king there. So my vote would be that hop usage maybe is not down.
Yes, hop utilization, you're on the right track. Hop utilization, if you adjust for oils, powders, and other non-pellet whole cone products, is actually up in beers by the most recent numbers. And I think it was actually the utilization of hops themselves is about 4.5%, if I remember correctly. And I'm just going off of, I didn't write that part down because I didn't think I'd get that deep into the woods. But
yeah, that makes sense to me.
We're actually up, despite there being oversupply and them needing to cut back. We're using more than ever hops in our beer.
I mean, when you've got an agricultural product that's going to take probably a few years, I don't know what the cycle is on hops, to realize its full potential, then trying to get ahead with current trends, you'll end up at a place where you're outpacing that.
Yes. And all of this is forecasted. It's not actually happening yet.
Okay.
So it's kind of a cautionary tale. Be on the lookout to make sure you have what you need set aside. Don't assume it'll just be out there for you to grab.
Because it wasn't that long ago, I remember brewers on their discussion forums talking back and forth about trying to get a hold of a hop, or there's a couple of websites that sell quote unquote surplus hops, but there were certain hop varieties that were selling secondary market, just like whiskeys and beers and all of that were selling for just ridiculous markups just because of the demand for them.
And I know some brewers change formulations of their beers because like they got priced out of it. Like we can't actually continue making this beer because that hop is just, it's too expensive. It's been pappyified.
Sure. And you know what? I will not call anybody out here, but there are certain breweries that do direct their brewers, do what you can, but we can't buy these super expensive, rare ingredients here. Just the budgets, make the absolute best beer you can, and without spending on the the Gucci hops,
the Gucci hops,
the Prada hops, Gucci hops, all of those. So yeah.
Come in a designer bag. That's fantastic.
But saying that, Brian, there's new hop varieties out there too. We're always getting new ones, and I actually just discovered one recently. Correct?
Correct. Yes, it's called Monocacy. I guess Monocacy. It's chicken coop for years and years and years. When it was discovered, when the guy contacted a brewer, they was thought to just be a leftover cluster hop from the Maryland hop industry from the 1800s. The hop was sent to the USDA's National Clonal Germplasty Repository. It turns out it was completely genetically unique. So this is legitimately a new hop that nobody's ever used. It has an unusual mix of alpha and beta acids. And for those that want to geek out, it's 2.77% alpha, 4.3 to 5% beta. I don't actually know my alpha acids well enough to know how unusual that is, but it's super productive, which is also a plus. 2 pounds per plant in the first year by dry weight. So they really churn out the hop cones. It's apparently like a blend of Saaz and Southern Cross hops, fruity, floral, spicy, and earthy. And here's a quote from it. Seems best suited for lighter styles like traditional pilsners or lagers or a Belgian Patters beer. So this plant can be used by any university right now for propagation or breeding or whatever they want. The people putting it out there just want everybody to know it came from Maryland. So that's kind of their
Maryland hop.
Yeah.
Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah, I'm excited about this. I know that they were looking for this, and apparently they hadn't gotten a lot of contact looking for these wild American hops. They knew are out there. It's cool that they found one. and it looks like a really interesting variety.
See, now I feel like that's something that would be fun for like the BA or somebody to finance. Let's go search the rural parts of America and go find hops.
Yeah, go
Johnny Hoppleseed.
Johnny
basically.
Hoppleseed.
The
Well, no, he went
reverse-
around planting
the
hops.
reverse
Oh
of,
yeah,
of that.
go steal
So,
the seeds back and cut
Yeah.
down the plants.
Go
No,
find the
don't-
hops, man. Go find the hops.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
No more apple trees. You are listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We're going to take us a break here, but we will be right back. Got an email today, Brian, from NVIDIA where they've put some of the newest, fastest, fanciest graphics cards in laptops.
Oh, okay.
So my point here is I've got a new laptop on the way.
Do you really?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't. I was
was like,
tempted.
I was gonna say you held onto that reveal to the right time when the live stream. Usually he'd say, "Guess what, Brian? I am getting a new watch, my Fitbit of probably
right.
4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
which I obsessively use for monitoring sleep quality
Yes.
and other stats.
Right.
Honestly, I don't use it for exercise. I just want to see stats, and I like
Yeah.
the stats about me.
You got to exercise.
Yeah,
That's
I don't-
right.
I don't
Have you
care much
considered
about
the
that.
fat bit.
The fat bit.
It's just like the Fitbit, but it takes all the exercise stuff.
Oh,
out
that
of
would
the
be
way.
nice. I've
Tells
effect-
you where the nearest pizza joint is. and
yeah.
stuff
Well,
like
you can
that.
effectively do that by removing little panels from the
Just
app.
delete it.
So you get
out
rid of
here.
everything
Get out of
having to
here.
do with like nutrition and exercise, and focus exclusively on what you're doing to yourself and how bad it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do that. But I've got a new one on the way. I got mine
Cool.
busted, and I got a neat little discount. So
All
I've got
right.
a new one. So I do have new tech on the way.
New tech.
Yeah.
No, when I was looking at the laptops, I was tempted. And I'm all like, get thee behind me, Satan. So he got behind me, but he was just pointing over my shoulder at the screen,
Yeah.
like, get that one.
He's like leaning over.
Yeah,
I am
that's-
behind you,
I'm
but get
behind you.
that.
So
I am speaking of new tech, something else I'm on the horizon looking for my Chromebook, which I use in the show. I've used on the show for years, basically, is running short on the time that Google will
they're
support
gonna
it with
sunset
updates.
it, Brian.
Yeah, they're sunsetting the updates for like June of this year. I'm thinking about getting an Apple device.
Well,
Yeah, I am. It's going to be expensive, but I also, as a guy who works in tech, there is reasons for me to have that, especially if I want to mess with any kind of mobile development that I can use on my iPhone.
fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I've never went Apple device just because I've not had a need to. Mobily, I'm pretty Apple heavy. I have the Apple, the pods, the ear pods, and I have the iPhone. I've got an Apple Watch, but I'm pretty PC embedded. So
yeah,
there's just so much software and stuff I have that it would have to be a secondary machine for me, or something like that, where it wouldn't be able to be my primary device.
I would probably use it mostly for the show, but for certain mobile development, if you want to do stuff for like an iPhone, and
Yeah.
I am in that world,
Right.
you do need a device like that to pull it off. I think they made it impossible for you to make a fake Macintosh, a Hackintosh on your PC. So
Okay.
when they did that, it kind of made it so you need to buy a device. So probably still a way to do it, but
Now
Yeah.
but I do believe that Mac will let you run a Windows session or
I think so.
emulator, maybe.
Yeah, I think you can dual boot them, and you could get
Yeah.
a strong. I forget what the higher end was because I don't actually follow Apple that closely. Pro Mac or Mac Pro, I think is the higher end one.
I don't know.
I think that those, I don't know if they still support dual booting, but they did at one point, so you could seriously you could spend all your time running Windows on it, and then just every now and then switch over
Pop
for
over to a little Windows
for a little
action
Mac
there.
stuff. So that's
Fair.
kind of an
Fair.
off-topic thing I'm looking at doing. But
Brian, you got some water? You can give me a little
oh, yeah,
little
yeah.
glass rinse here before we go waking and bacon. Waking and bacon.
Stephen had a comment about the house.
Yeah, see, he's saying, and that's, I don't doubt that at all, Stephen, that overall production, and I meant to mention this on the show, but I'm sure there are certain varieties that are still
Yeah, see, that's
still
the,
hard to get.
That's the thing, because I always hear about stuff that's being sought after. It's harder to get. So
Yeah.
this kind of surprises me, but I think this might be like Centennial, which is no longer a super popular hop. I think it's used a lot. I don't think it's a hot hop anymore. It was at one point in time. I bet you that's one of the ones they're talking about. But if you're going Citra or something like that, I don't think this. I'd be surprised if there's a huge oversupply of that. I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm not following the stuff that close.
Bitter chocolate. Jalapeno, Brian.
Are you getting the jalapeno note?
Getting a little pepper note there. So
This is the beer
the
famous.
creaminess, the oatmeal creaminess there. Bitter chocolate, oatmeal creaminess, good mouthfeel, roasty.
This is the beer that I had in my cellar when they were still in bottles, and I may still have some left. That when I opened it up, it became a jalapeno stout,
Yeah.
and it was actually good. Like I actually liked it that way, and it was what the heck? It was the coffee beans, the
It's
aging,
coffee.
the oxidation
coffee
or aging
will
of
give you
coffee
some
beans
pepper
that
notes. Yeah.
gives you the pepper notes. I don't think this is a really old
Idaho
one.
7. Yeah. That's one you don't
Ah.
hear much about that one anymore, but that is tasty.
I see it in a fair number of beers, but
Yeah.
maybe it's not the sexy new hop anymore.
I always enjoyed, I always forget the name of it. The dill and lemon one. Sriracha Ace.
Sriracha Ace.
I always enjoyed Sriracha Ace, and you don't see it as much anymore. But I liked it in a lighter beer that was able to, throw that dill and lemon out there, and that was really nice.
For whatever reason, that beer, anytime I hear about it, I remember drinking a beer in a tap room in New York City. One of the times I was there, and just picking that beer because it had Sriracha Ace in it. I don't know why. That is forever in my mind tied to that. And I don't even know what brewery or what beer it was. I just know it was a Sriracha Ace beer. Man, I can't even. Part of me wanted to say Allagash, but I don't think that's even right. Anyway, yeah,
That would be another fun topic for us to discuss in the future. What are hops that you miss? Hops that were cool but aren't cool anymore.
Should have Stan Aronis on for that.
Yeah. That'd be he'd be able to tell us probably exact stats on what was popular here this year and that. But
did you say Stan Hieronymus?
Yeah, Stan
Okay.
Hieronymus.
Yeah.
Sriracha Ace was a favorite. Lemon Drop, which never really, it had a season maybe where it was popular. I still like the Mandarina Bavaria.
Yeah, that one's
And I think that one's
good.
still used, but maybe not as much as. Again, I think that's one that had a season. It was hot for 3 months.
That's one I don't think I'll ever get tired of that one in a good situation. The one that had a season, and I forget what it even wound up being named, but it was like 476 or 472 or something like that. The one that had barrel character to it.
Yeah,
That was a hop I was really excited about and had mostly meh experiences with it. I think overall, like sometimes good, but a lot of times like I got woody, I got some astringent or whatever.
So something I remember that with that hop is I thought brewers were using it in beers that may not have showcased the characteristics of that as well. Like they do it in an IPA.
Yes,
it's like you don't want wood and astringency in an IPA. Throw this thing in a stout. And
I think that's the first thing people want to do when they get a new hop is you put it in the beer that showcases the hops. That's a supporting act beer, and I think that in the right porter or something else, the right brown ale, the right stout, I think that might have been a really good thing. Like maybe some sort of a barrel aged Russian Imperial stout that might have been a really good hop to use, and maybe somebody's using it. And I just don't know, but
could have been tasty.
I don't remember what the name of it is now. I assume it was given a name.
I don't know. 476. That sounds right.
Yeah, something like 476, 472. It was in there. HBC something or other. I'm sure it would be easy enough to find.
What is the one that was like really deeply floral that was popular? Oh heck, man, this may be 10 years ago now. It wasn't Centennial. Maybe was it Centennial?
Was Centennial?
That doesn't sound right. No, that's not
I
right.
don't think so.
I think it started with a C.
Just so
But it
many
was
hops,
deeply
too.
floral.
Cashmere?
Yeah. No.
Fairly popular, but I don't know that for a fact because we just have a brewery near us that just cashmere's the heck out of some beer.
So what are your favorite flavors in a hop, Brian? Let's throw out tropical because that one seems to be the one everyone's going for. Hey, we want tropical and fruity. So outside of tropical and fruity, what do you dig in a hop?
I've had some really good beers made with Cascade that had really nice citrus or orangey citrus and pine notes to it. I like if you get that orange and pine together, that's pretty nice.
Okay.
Grapefruit's all right, but I've had it something about I think it was Cascade, and I'm like, I'm really like the citrus flavor in this.
So here's something that I think sounds contradictory to what I say about IPAs, but I really love grapefruit and pine, that combination, as long as you keep the bitterness low. And was it 720 pale ale or 710 pale ale
At Sweetwater,
at Sweetwater?
I think it's like 710.
But it had that classic, and the bitterness was a little low, and it kind of had some of that classic, piney in that. But yeah, give me grapefruit and pine and low bitterness, maybe a pale ale. I'm on board. I'm sold.
Divorcing the idea of grapefruit from like bitterness is, I guess, doable, but it seems tough. Like, it's how do you
Well, that's why I
maintain
said
the
it
quality of the grapefruit without
Well, the
having,
grapefruit is there's gonna be some there, Brian, and I'm
Yeah.
not totally opposed to bitterness. I'm just not a big fan of it in the level of like the great IBU wars. I
yeah.
don't like that level. I don't like something that would typically be considered a West Coast IPA is probably not gonna hit my preferred profile.
We lost a lot of good men in the great
In the
IBU wars
in the IBU wars
of 2010.
I knew a dude got hit with 1,000 IBUs,
Yeah.
Brian.
He was never the same.
Never the same. Never the same. Palate equals wrecked.
Right. Yes.
All right,
Oh,
all
man.
right. Let's do it.
Are we on 3? Is this 3?
3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Roger, Roger. What's our vector, Victor?
Now, back to the Beer Guys radio show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. I want to give a quick shout out to one of our great radio affiliates, WGSO 990 AM in New Orleans, Louisiana. Catch Beer Guys Radio on WGSO every Saturday at 8 p.m. Now let's get back to the show. And I did not pick them specifically for this week. They came up by luck of the draw.
You shouldn't have said that because I thought you were smart for a second. I thought you would plan that and you could have just rode that out.
Here's the thing. I've got a spreadsheet where I maintain all the affiliates, and I was going to cherry pick them over some others. I realized I hadn't updated the spreadsheet. So it turned out it was. So I thought about it, and then I realized it was going to happen anyway.
No.
So
I
both
don't believe
brilliant and happenstance.
No, I don't
Yes.
believe that part, Brian. But it's probably just because you're so punk, Brian.
It's because
that
I
you do
am.
things
Yes.
like that. And, you're not the only one in the world that's punk.
I've heard
Brewdog,
this.
the punkest.
Are they?
They'll tell you in their corporate press release and junket, they will tell you how punk an individual they are. And the thing is they constantly do things that say how punk they are, Brian.
Of course.
Like,
yeah.
I think there's a new story this week about the punkness.
Yes, there is. In the punk tradition, Brewdog is partnering with Budweiser to sell beer in China.
Yeah.
This is very punk, Tim. Let me just tell you, I've never seen punker activity. I'm trying to do my best Donald Trump right now, so I don't know if it's
They're the
working.
punkest.
I've never seen a bigger punk than this brewery. Anyway, Punk IPA will be brewed in China at Budweiser China's Pushin Brewery in the Fujian province. I don't think I said
Can't
any of
be
those
close.
right.
Probably not close at all. Yeah.
It will be sold through Budweiser China's sales and distribution network, and this is thought to be in preparation for their forthcoming very punk Brewdog IPO. I don't know what this means for the equity for Punk's crowd. Brewdog has actually had a presence in China since 2015. It's just not as punk as it is now, but they expect this to increase sales considerably, which is very punk. And they also plan to open several very punk bars in China.
The punkest.
So what's on your selling out to Budweiser punk playlist, Tim? That's my question.
God Save the Queen is probably on there.
Yes.
Teenagers from Mars is probably on there. Definitely Holiday in Cambodia, which I think is appropriate.
Sure,
Little
sure.
Dead Kennedys. That's all on my selling out.
Real
playlist.
Big Fish, sellouts.
Sell out.
Got to have that on there.
There you go. There's a song I believe by Dead Kennedys that I think would be appropriate, but I don't think the name of the title of the song is. I don't think I can say it on there, but it's about Nazi punks. So,
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Okay. Yes.
But so Brewdog. The thing that gets me with them, Brian, is the thing with Brewdog is that they're just so oxymoronic constantly. You come out and talk about how punk you are, and they just don't live that. And do what you want. Do what you want with your business. Succeed however you need, but don't be a poser.
I don't think they can avoid it. I'm surprised that there are still a very large number of people who buy into it. I think it's just people that aren't as geeky about beer as we are and see what they're actually doing. They're aware of the brand. They like the idea and they like the things that they've seen the owner say, and they don't go any deeper than that. And maybe that's all it takes.
Base. Maybe that's all it takes.
Let me tell you, when they had that series on, I forget what station it was, cable network anyway, where they were brewing all these weird beers in different places. I enjoyed that.
I did too. I watched it. Yeah.
But
have you been to the new brew pub in Atlanta?
I haven't. All
right.
Have
you made it down there? All right. So none of us have been to the Brewdog Atlanta yet. I will go. I'll throw that out there. I want to see what it's about. I don't buy Brewdog beer at the store typically. I've had a couple of their beers. Tactical Nuclear Penguin, Brian.
Was that a Brewdog beer?
Which I believe is a Brewdog beer. So we hunted that one down.
Oh yeah.
And it was trash. I mean, it was a fun experience, but
that's the like 17% burning brake pad.
I believe much higher than, I think it was like a
19 or
30. No, like a 34 at one time. It was one of their, super beers.
Oh,
or
yeah.
Whatever there. So
yeah, that was really bad. I remember having that. And,
but I'm not even sure that being good was part of the goal with that one. I think the goal was just to get the ABV up there. So
well, the ABV, the high ABV is punked him more than flavor.
I forgot about that.
High ABV is far more punked than flavor. So as an aging punk yourself, I think you have to go to the Brewdog place in Atlanta. It only makes sense.
I will pull out my combat boots, my army jacket. I thought of something. It's kind of weird that a lot of the old punk clothes were like military surplus. Just seems, but we were allowed to do that at the time, Brian, so we did.
Well, and the whole idea of punk, and I don't know if people even get this anymore, was
31%, Brian.
31%.
Tactical Nuclear Penguin was 31%.
I think the whole idea of punk was to take things that you don't normally associate together and throw them together just to outrage people.
All right.
It was, in fact, to I guess fight the establishment by messing with their ideas of what things are by putting them together. And I think maybe it worked. I don't know.
Yeah.
We still have an establishment, so maybe it didn't work.
But interesting. You would think a brewery that defined themselves at punk would find someone other than Budweiser, but I guess that large of a network helps them get out to more people there, right?
Yeah, well, they are looking for an IPO, so it does make a lot of sense if you look at it just strictly from a business standpoint, but their image has never been strictly about business. Though I think that they've always been strictly about business behind the scenes from the very beginning, because they are phenomenally successful no matter what you think of them.
And these guys, there's always controversy. I mean, just nonstop with these guys. The gold can debacle with connected to Atlanta, the Donald Trump scofflaw English beer release.
Oh, that's right. That was a Brewdog thing too.
Lots of stories on social media of how they put these people through extended job interviews and make them do work like designers. They'll have them actually do a full design of a new product launch and then not hire them
and steal
then their design shows up,
Yep.
So there's a lot of things. Now, of course, they always deny that that's what it is, but there's a lot of stories along those
everything
lines.
We've said so far is alleged, because I think that they allegedly do like to sue people for saying things about them allegedly.
There's a lot of story. As I said, a lot of stories out there. Brian.
And they may just be
always
fairy tales,
controversy.
Tim.
Yeah.
Very unpunk stories.
They're just unlucky.
Yes.
Literally all the 150 bad things that are accused of them, totally people talking trash.
It's just terrible.
Brian.
Such a shame. Such a shame.
But moving right along, Brian, closures and acquisitions. Always some news in these areas, Brian, and a big acquisition recently, correct?
Correct. So big acquisition news. Drake's Brewing is buying Bear Republic Brewing. So Tim, when was the last time you had a Racer 5 IPA?
Long time, Brian. Long time.
And I suspect it was around the time I last bought a Racer 5 IPA.
Probably.
I was excited to get some. I heard really good things in 2016, I believe, ish. I bought some, had it shipped to me, and spent too much money on it. It was fun. But it's Drake's is buying them. They're calling it a merger, but it's really a sale. Drake's will own all of Bear Republic's recipes, formulas, and intellectual property, and they will produce the full lineup of Bear Republic beers. Their official statement is Racer 5 is shifting gears of partnership with the Drake's Brewing Company. The iconic West Coast IPA, once at the forefront of the California boom scene, craft beer boom, excuse me, is merging lanes to accommodate industry-wide changes while keeping a firm pedal to the metal moving forward. So
Okay.
these guys were friends before this and had actually the owners of the two companies, they'd actually partnered up. I think they launched a brewery before either of these other breweries existed. So it kind of makes sense. Bear Republic hit an all-time high volume-wise in 2016, around the time I bought the beers, of 81,800 barrels. Their volume is down to just 37,000 barrels by 2021. So they've fallen quite a bit, and
chunk there, huh?
they need some help getting going. Hopefully this works out for them. I wish the best for both of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And Brian, fairly recent news this week that we just saw. Don't have a lot of time to cover this, but there was a closure recently, kind of one that for me was unexpected.
Oh yeah. The platform Platform Beer Company. They closed. Budweiser bought them back in 2019 because they were the fastest growing regional brewery in the United States in 2017. And it just abruptly shut down. And initially it was just rumor, but it's been confirmed. 3 of the beers will be produced by Budweiser in some capacity, or AB InBev, I should say. Hayes Jude, Old Future, and Canalway IPA. But it looks like everything else Platform is done.
Surprising, man. That is one I did not see coming. You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We're going to take a break, and we'll see you soon.
You'll have some editing to do. I had to jump around like in my notes to find all the pertinent points.
Like, just say they closed. Hurry up. Go.
Well, I wanted to give some useful context to it. Yeah, that was interesting. So being bought out by AB InBev does not necessarily mean ensure your future going forward.
That, if we hadn't tried to shoehorn that into the last, that would have been something I said, but we got a couple other stories. So editing for time as we go, Nate, is what I'm doing here.
Editing for time. Let's see, what do we got?
Yes, I was surprised in that, out of all the ones in the package. Now I'm sorry, I should get up here.
You should, since we're streaming.
So
Elvis Juice was okay.
Elvis Juice, okay.
That's one of their most popular, very punk beers. Yes.
They had some controversy over that one. And I think they end up changing it, the name? Again, controversy. They didn't. What's that? Allegedly. No, this is real controversy. I'm not saying anything here.
There was controversy about
using the name. So.
I don't know. I don't remember if that's one of the ones that got
Tyler,
changed.
Do you know that? Did they change the name of Elvis Juice, or did they just quit making it? So
it might have been the estate had an issue with it. Like, oh, they did. They sued them. Yeah. I think that actually Brewdog won that. I think that they won that, and Elvis Juice still exists.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a big Brewdog.
Did
I'm
they
not
do
punk enough to drink enough
anything
Brewdog
with Elvis Juice that would have indicated they were talking about the king? Because Elvis is a name,
Maybe they had a silhouette in the can or something like that.
I seem to be thinking of a silhouette. I'm not sure.
I don't.
So I'm not sure.
I don't think they changed the name either. I think that I think that the estate of Elvis had an issue with it because Elvis was no punk. Like, let's be straight here. No punk. And,
I actually think Elvis was probably more punk than Brewdog, man.
You shut your mouth.
You shut your mouth.
You shut your mouth.
Think about Elvis back in Elvis was punk. I'm going to give it to him.
Yeah.
Elvis was on the country boy rock and roller, the hip gyrations. He was banned from Elvis was punk.
He's a different kind of punk from Brewdog punk. And I think that they objected to that use of punk. And these days, people, I don't think anybody thinks, now you might be right. I think you probably are. But I don't think anybody thinks of Elvis
wrong,
being.
Because I think he loved Nixon and I'm probably wrong.
I think he did. Yeah,
he was a bad boy, but maybe not a punk.
Yeah, it was one of those. Yeah, he had a little. I don't know if he ever was really bad boy, but I think he tried to play that in movies or something like that. He always seemed like a mama's
cut his
boy.
Brother in half with a sword one time.
Did he?
Yeah. It's a very bad case of being cut in half.
Yeah. Was that Elvis that did that?
I think that's who that was supposed to be, right?
Could be.
If you haven't seen the movie Walk Hard with the Dewey Cox story, you got to see that.
That is
great.
quality entertainment.
But wait, he wasn't supposed to be Elvis because didn't Dewey Cox do a concert with Elvis?
Yeah, no, he was
Walk Hard. Who played Elvis in Walk Hard?
Is that Jack White?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jack White is amazing. Big fan. I think he was meant to be Johnny.
Yeah,
is a spoof on
later
Johnny
in the
Cash.
life. You're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
Exactly. Because all of the stuff is a tie into that. Because a
In
really
my
good
dreams,
Johnny
you're
Cash
blowing
movie.
me some kisses.
Yeah. Because there was a really good Johnny Cash movie that came out. I think it was Joaquin Phoenix that did that.
Yeah.
Fantastic movie. And I think that this was satirical kind of take on it.
We're smoking reefer, Dewey. Can't you smell it?
Yeah.
No.
God, smell
I
blind.
can't. Man, that's such a great movie. I have to watch that one again. What's the fella's name? John C. Reilly, I think. I like his stuff. I dig his style.
Yeah, it was that probably was
I'm
his
calling smell blind.
that may be his pinnacle achievement. I mean, he's been in a lot of stuff. And I know some people would argue with some of his other things, but I'm getting some looks. What you thinking about that?
Terrapin, I love you guys, but this one this one isn't hitting it for me.
You know what? I'm noticing a date on there that I didn't notice before. This may have been
21, huh?
This may have been. Thank you, Total Wine, for selling me really old beer. I think this may be very old.
Okay, now I'm not necessarily defending Total Wine, but that's a stout.
It is a stout.
So they probably wouldn't. But okay, then I can't say anything. But this, I'm going to take another sip, but I think this is a dumper.
9.4% ABV.
Put it in your glasses, try it out of the can.
Here
All
you
right.
go, B. I don't think you'll.
I'll take it.
I don't
Yeah, let
think
me
you'll
take a
want
hit
to.
off of that. That is disappointing.
That one didn't hold. That one didn't hold. Could you give me a lager? Do we have a cold lager?
It seems like something went off with the maple in there. Okay. All right. Well, you live and learn. I saw that and I'm like, oh, that would be fun.
Sounds good. It probably was.
We are coming up on the Wake and Bake
When it was
Off,
a freshie,
which will be happy. We will be doing that this weekend. And
can was too full.
I really wanted to.
I'll take an athletic light.
I'll take it. Is there an athletic heavy in there? Do they have a pastry stout? No.
Hey, y'all, we want to give a shout out if you see Sweetwater's new lager out, and we'll say that we are not being paid for saying this, but that they did invite us out to a media event, hooked us up pretty good.
So we're totally being paid. No,
this is really good. I mean, if you like just a drinking lager, this new Sweetwater lager is really good.
I knocked one back out of the can right before the show and enjoyed it. This is quality.
Yeah, recommended.
I was sitting at the launch event where I could have anything off a tap that I wanted, and I wasn't sure what to have. So I said, I had one. I drank another. By the end of the second one, I'm like, I just want to drink that all night. I made myself change
mega
up.
solid drinking beer, man.
And it's like 4.5%.
Good,
super
like
light
grain flavor. I
Yeah.
mean, there's flavor to it, but it's light, so it's not like it's not like a Coors Light, Miller Lite, where you're not getting anything there. There is character to it. It's yeah.
I approve of it, and yeah,
I
easy
expected it
drinking.
to be good, but it has surpassed my expectations.
It is gooder than good.
It's gooder than good. Yeah.
Lager, gooder than good.
Gooder than good.
That-
Sweetwater, if you're listening, you can use that in your marketing.
We'll talk about like it rates of
credit BGR Media Studios.
That's right.
Please.
You know what? All we want is credit just around the country.
Tell everybody
it's gooder than good.
Everybody that has the beer, they have to listen to the show.
That's right.
In perpetuity.
This show here. Yes.
No. Yes.
Oh, just in general.
Show,
like not this one episode.
in general.
Yeah.
Correct. I got to look up Elvis juice. I got to see if there's got to Google it, Brian, see if we've got a silhouette on
the one thing I've in the past, you may have noticed if you've been listening to the show for a while, I've avoided putting Brewdog into the news segments because I'm convinced that their entire advertising budget, they save that because they spend all of their time. They spend all of their time doing outrageous things to get into the news. So all of the media reports that the story, And bad news is good news. And they sell beers and they get in this, and they can tell all of their fans, like, look at them. They're fighting us. It's us against them. They don't understand us. We're punks. Side with us. Fight against the whatever, the establishment.
They should get Marjorie
or whatever.
Taylor Greene to do marketing for them. So looking at the Elvis juice can, it's just really a simple red and white. So, there's nothing I see that indicates any Elvisness.
I think
to
it used to be different, but I'm not sure.
Well,
I think there was
I
a
don't
silhouette
even see-
situation, but maybe not. I could be wrong.
Here's one. Grapefruit infused IPA with natural citrus flavors. I don't know, Brian. I don't know. Nothing I can find on the internet would indicate what you're saying has any truthiness to it.
Low on truthiness. There was some sort of illegal maybe it was really just the name only, and they thought, hey,
okay.
we
Now,
own the
according to
name.
this news from Vice, Elvis Presley's estate forces brewer to change the name of Elvis juice. Per Vice, Brian.
From what to what?
Let me see. Y'all stick with me here. Let me do a little scrolling.
I was gonna say,
Let's see what we got. Elvis has officially left the building. Good one, Vice. Good one.
So pumped.
Do you know
So
where that
clever.
comes from?
it wasn't one of the concerts they actually announced that?
No. So apparently when he used to go shopping, they would clear the building out and close it just for Elvis. And they would tell everyone. So when the store was clear to open to other shoppers, they would say Elvis has left the building.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
So-
didn't know what that was. I didn't know what that was about, but it has come
Now,
in.
I will say that I have not verified that story, but that is the story that I was told.
I wouldn't be surprised because you don't want to deal with the throngs of people dude's going to have showing up while he's trying to shop. He's going to spend more time signing autographs and buying things. from you.
Okay. So, all right.
So was it always Elvis juice, or was there a separate? Was it Elvis Presley juice?
So the article here, a little clickbaity on the title.
Okay.
So it did say blah, 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 blah. Brewdog had to pay, interestingly enough, $1,934 in court costs to the estate. And they either had to change the name or get permission from the estate to use the new name. And I'm sure there is resolution to this. There is resolution to this, but not in the article that I see. So,
so the article doesn't pay off at all.
no. Clickbaited me into reading it, and then it didn't have the information that I wanted.
So presumably, if it hasn't changed names and the judgment was that they had to get permission to use the name, they probably did something outside of court to continue using the name.
If
that
they're
would
still
be my
using it,
guess.
yeah.
So that's the implication, and I doubt anybody's going to have the exact figure because that sounds like the court has made its decision. What you guys do on your own is probably not going to make it out to the public. So,
Truthiness.
yes, indeed. I'm guessing there might even be licensing involved. I wouldn't be surprised if the estate is getting money annually from Brewdog for using Elvis juice.
So here's my thoughts. Brewdog's not going to pay a licensing fee.
You don't think so?
They would
Yeah,
rather
probably
change the
not.
name, make a different beer, make the beer, use the name, get the controversy, get the publicity, move on at the lowest cost. Much like you said, why spend money on licensing, marketing, and all that, where you can create controversy that does more marketing for you than
That's
for
a fair
fraction of the
point.
cost.
That
So-
would be more in keeping with how they've
Yeah.
done business. So
So
They
my
don't
guess
spend
would
money.
be they either change the name, because I don't think that beer was embedded enough to where it made a difference to them if they kept the name on there. It definitely got more value in the controversy and news that it generated than the beer. And they'll just move on and make the next one. Yes.
So you know what? In the most recent stuff of the beers that are being made in China, I don't know if I have it sitting in front of me, but I think Elvis juice is not one of the ones being made there. It was Punk IPA.
I'm curious how their new Tesla Disney Star Wars IPA is going to do.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic, Tim. Just you wait. You'll hear about it in the news so soon.
Right.
So soon. Tesla, Disney, Mars. Yeah. That will be amazing.
Yeah. But again, they wouldn't do that because that shortens the drama cycle. They have to do they'll do a Disney IPA.
Oh, yeah.
They'll get the controversy from that.
Walt Disney approves of this
Then
beer.
they
IPA.
do the Elon Musk's Tesla IPA.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's electrifying.
It's yes.
Yeah.
That's gonna, man. If you have the ability to deal with all the legal action, man, you could be famous
Who would
forever.
the
All you
sue
have to do is
happy?
just irritate everybody who's
Yeah.
big name. Yeah,
And they throw you C&D, you pay a little bit of court costs, and you stop. And that's
there's your marketing budget.
That's it,
That's your
man.
marketing
That's
right
it.
there.
Yeah.
So you just estimate what that's going to cost you every year, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, well, so who are we going to rip off now, or who are we going
Yeah.
to anger now, and then we'll go with that. How much is
So
it going to
guys,
cost?
FYI, next week this show is going to be Beer Guys Radio presented by NBC.
There you go.
And then so we'll
Peacock Network and
yes,
Beer Guys
presented
Radio.
by the Peacock.
There will be Beer Guys Netflix Beer Guys Radio.
Everything said in this show is endorsed by and approved by. I better not even say that on live stream, man. So you know this story, but I'll say this. Earlier this week, Brian and I are joking back and forth, and I saw a Putin meme. And I shared the meme, and we made some comments on Putin and Russia. Less than 10 minutes after that, my phone rings, and the caller ID's got a weird. And that's it. Now it rang once, and they hung up without. It rang once, and they quit. But I kid you not, 10 minutes after making jokes about Putin, I got a call from Russia. And on one side of me says the fact that I think that they were monitoring us and called me because they didn't like something I was saying about Putin sounds weird, crazy, and conspiratorial. On the other hand, it's entirely possible. So, and my number could have showed up in some list, and maybe they didn't mean to call me. They were just monitoring, and they clicked something and it dialed out, and they're like, oh, hang up. But make fun of Putin, mention Putin in Russia, get a call. So from Russia.
You're on the KGB's watch.
I'm on the list now, man.
The only reason Tim is wearing his tinfoil hat right now is it doesn't work with the headphones. It gets crushed and it makes all kinds of noise.
Yeah.
It makes it hard to hear. So,
yep.
And
So
it's a pain in the butt to fold it.
yeah, you just kind of crunch it up against
Crinkly.
your head. Yeah.
Frankly, I iron it every day just to make sure it still
Iron
looks
it
good.
every day.
Yeah.
You should microwave it to keep it warm and safe from any contaminants.
I do, but I have a large microwave that I just step on in there. Microwave it while
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Spin around. Just hold it above your head and spin around.
All right, comrade. Should we get back into our show?
We should.
All right.
Our show. Segment 4, right?
It is.
Yeah. How about that?
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/Beer Guys. Patrons get cool perks like Beer Guys swag and commercial-free episodes. Now let's get back to the show. Tim, I'm going to ask you a question because it occurred to me we frequently drink through all the beers of the week, and we don't really talk about them on the air. We just kind of glaze over them.
Okay.
What has been your favorite of the beers we've had so far tonight?
Of the ones that we have had today, I dug the Mardi Gras Bock. I just
really
like
good.
I like the caramely notes there. You know, the toasty, malty on that. That was good. I enjoyed that a lot. The Wake and Bake was tasty. As I mentioned, bitter chocolate. You know, the deep roastiness there. I got a little like pepper notes to it. So that was good. The triple that we had was nice. So
I like the triple. Yeah.
I dug that. Is that your favorite, Brian? Is the triple your favorite today?
It's close. It hit me just right. I
Okay.
did enjoy the triple, but that Mardi Gras Bock was also very good. And I could see where I might enjoy a king cake with that. I could see that. Now I'll say we also had a maple pecan praline Wake and Bake that we noticed after the fact is a couple years old. A lot of these pastry stouts don't hold on the shelf that well. And we know that. We talked about some of the variants of like the cinnamon rolled Wake and Bake and that. Anybody who had that one that tried to sell or some of them said, y'all drink them. They're not getting better. Drink them. This one, we're not going to put it on terrapin. It did not hold up well.
over
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah,
So,
unfortunately, yeah, it did not work out too well.
yeah.
And I picked it up this week and I bought it off the shelf this week. So
Yeah.
it's several years old. I put that squarely on the shoulders of distributor/retailer. Somebody need to
Sure.
pull that off
Keep
the
it-
shelf
but
and do
see,
something with
they
that.
don't pull stouts though, Brian.
Yeah, that's
I don't even fault the retailer because a stout sometimes I actually kind of like every now and then find a 2, 3, 4-year-old stout.
a
on the
fair
shelf.
point. That's a fair
If
point.
I saw that and noticed 2021 on, probably still would have bought it.
Yeah.
And you would have too. I know. The
You know
answer
what?
to
You're
that one.
right. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, they aged it for me. And then
Right.
I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, wait, this didn't work out so well.
Now I want to throw out one that's not on our beer of the week list, and we've been spamming our socials with this week. But Sweetwater launched a new lager, and they did invite us out to their media event. You know,
Yes.
showed us a good time, gave us some beers and that. But Brian, this is a great lager.
That
It's
is a
really
very
nice
easy
drinking
drinking
lager.
lager.
So when we drank through all our beers of the week, I popped one of these just to have something to sip on, and I highly recommend it. If you see Sweetwater, just lager. That's the name of it, Brian.
It's a lager named lager.
Lager named lager, which it's a lager style in case you didn't get
Yeah,
that.
in case that wasn't
But
obvious.
it's Beer Guys approved, man. Get you
Indeed.
some.
I do approve of that.
But Brian, up next in our This Isn't Even Beer segment of the show, we got bourbon news. More bourbon news. We had some last week, but you found out what sounds like good news.
So I think I actually mentioned this in passing without having any specifics to back me up. But it turns out, in fact, Kentucky's Buffalo Trace distillery is doubling their production. And it's part of a $1.2 billion expansion. It will increase the production of Buffalo Trace, which makes sense, Eagle Rare, which is a favorite of mine, bourbons, meaning there will be increased availability of some of these bourbons in just a few years. It does take a few years to age them. They got to put them in barrels, so it's not like an immediate turnaround like with beer. Pappy and the Antique Collection are not mentioned, so they will probably not be impacted too much on this, but I would assume some of these better barrels will go into making some of the Antique Collection down the road. We're talking like
We're probably talking 5, 7, 10 years.
we're probably talking
for the
10 at
payoff
the
on these.
earliest.
Yeah.
So yeah, that the earliest side. So it's not just area for more barrels. They have a brand new 40-foot tall still. They can produce 60,000 gallons a day, and this all means, in addition to more bourbon, it means more bourbon barrels to put beers into. So your bourbon barrel aged stouts that we know and love, or anything else you put in bourbon barrels, maple syrup, whatever, there'll be more of those out there.
More bourbon, more barrels. Sounds like a good thing to me.
I agree. Yeah. And so many of these things, your Wellers, your E.H. Taylors, they're so hard to find right now. And they're so good. And it's a shame. Everything about bourbon's gone crazy. Honestly.
How much do you hunt hard to find bourbons? Like, do you dive into that and say, okay, I really want this E.H. Taylor, I'm going to go to half a dozen shops? Or do you say, okay, can't find it, that's fine?
So my day, at one point in time, I did do that. I did go searching, but at this point in time, what I do is I'll go to a liquor store, and I try to go to liquor stores that will have some drops of things like this, and I will spend some time carefully evaluating what's on the shelf, because sometimes things that are a little on the rarer side will just get put on the shelf, and sometimes it'll go into a closet. So I do look. I do make a point of looking, and I do make a point of really closely evaluating what's out there, because I know what I like. But for the most part, when I know if there's a big lottery and there's a big whoop-de-doo and you got to buy 50 gallons of vodka to buy something else, I'm like, I don't do any of that. I'm beyond that. I've grown out of that. But if there's an opportunity to pick up something that's a little less obvious or a little less common, I'm going to get some of that. I'm definitely going to do that.
Are you a bourbon bunny, Brian?
A bourbon bunny?
A bourbon bunny?
I don't actually know what that is.
So
please
this was
explain.
posted on social media this week that a store had put up a sign defining bourbon bunny. And a bourbon bunny is someone that hops from store to store trying to get rare and allocated bourbons, but they never do any business with the store.
I did actually do some stuff like that. The problem with that is if you have a day job and not independently wealthy, it's very difficult to go to all the places that might have it. You might have an idea, and some people get lucky, but I'm busy. I just can't.
Sure.
Like I would if I could.
So my two sides of the bourbon bunny story, because the sign that the store posted is and I understand this. I'll say I totally understand the store's point of view. You come in here, I've never seen you. I don't know you from Adam. And you say, do you have, Pappy 23? You're like, even if I had 10 bottles behind the counter, I'm going to tell you no.
No chance.
If I never see you before, that those are going to be allocated to their regular customers, their good customers that have bought bourbon throughout the year. And that I get that. I respect that. And I appreciate that. On the flip side of that coin, there's a lot of people that are just trying to find the bourbon. It's not like they're trying to do it to be intentionally bourbon bunnying around there to flip and all that. I have gone to a few stores to look for a bourbon just because I was curious if they had it without really giving any thought to the fact that it's shorthanded, allocated, and all that. I understand it once it said that, but I don't think every bourbon bunny is negative. They may just be looking to get a bourbon that they've heard is great.
I would definitely be the bourbon bunny. I would go around, but there is something to be said about building a relationship with a source. And I did that years ago. And I used to have, man, what golden days these were. I used to have boxes set aside where I would get text messages. Would you like this bottle? Yes, please. I'll put it in your box. Man, if you have an arrangement like that, it's expensive, but you never question it, and you got to thank your lucky stars you've got that, because once you lose that, you lose access to all that, it's tough. It can be tough.
I was a bit of a bunny, say, a decade ago. I'm more like a bourbon sloth now, Brian. When I hear there's something good there, I'm going to come down out of my tree.
Very slowly.
I'll drag myself to the nearest liquor store. Ask if they have it. If they don't, I'll get something else and I'll drag myself back into my tree. That's it. I'm not going to put the effort into bunny hopping around to find something. I don't care that much anymore.
Well, and you realize how much time, especially us being in Atlanta with the traffic we have, how much time it takes to get from place to place. And you can't just call ahead. And a lot of times you're going to talk to people who have no idea what you're even talking about. So you have to show up in person, and going from place to place is expensive in terms of money and time. So
we've shared before with beers, Brian, and we famously have mentioned KBS was a beer that kind of pushed us into homebrewing. But when it was smaller production batches of KBS, and we would get it in Atlanta, several stores was a 1 bottle limit.
Oh yeah,
a single bottle limit. And there's times when I spent 2 to 3 hours driving from store to store to get a 4-pack just to find places that would let me get that 1 bottle, Bourbon County Stout.
Youthful insanity. That's what that stuff is.
Man, I just don't have time for that.
The Black Friday stuff, running around and then going to find a place that had it on. You get your bottles and then go to a place that had it on draft so you could drink it without touching your bottles. So you had your bottles to hoard for whatever purpose you had for those.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Brian, we've got a Super Bowl story here, and I'm going to ask you, we've talked about Super Bowl 2 weeks in a row. We've kind of overdone that. Is this story worth covering, or can I veto this one?
You can probably veto it.
All right, I am vetoing
excessive partying, and dismissed it.
Here's the big part of it. They were drinking and partying at their parade. The Chiefs were. Some people complained because they didn't like it.
That's right.
That is the whole story, is that people didn't like it, and they thought that if they didn't want to party and have fun, then no one else should do that either.
Exactly.
Was that it? All right.
Yeah.
So not quite vetoed, but the short version of it. Brian, something that New Belgium reached out to us. They wanted us to know some information, and we said that we would share it along, as it is relevant to kind of what we do here. But New Belgium Brewing and ODD Media, they've launched a podcast, Brian.
Yes.
And it is called Green Flags. We think this is appropriate. The topic that they're going on, Green Flags, how to humanize business and get rich trying. So seems a little oxymoronic there, but hopefully it'll work. We've talked a good bit here recently about, hold on, I'm going to pause just a second. Is that timer right? I didn't see you give me any notices there. I didn't see him.
He did.
Did he?
Yeah,
I didn't see him get up in my face. All right. I'm going to close it and we'll end with the Super Bowl story.
Okay.
Maybe we'll cover this next week. All right. Just let me wrap this up and then I'll cut it to pieces. Brian, we're out of time, man. We did it. We talked too much. We have a story that we wanted to share that we'll talk about next week. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We greatly appreciate it. For more craft beer info, follow us online. We are Beer Guys Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks again for tuning in. Have a great week. And don't forget to drink local. Cheers. I missed those.
I thought that you were really going. He's going for the gusto. He's really gonna.
I missed it.
He's
You
gonna
guys,
cram it all in.
If I look like I'm not getting it, something like that, because I have no.
I'll just throw a pen directly in your
Yeah.
eyeball.
All righty.
We got a comment.
Oh yeah, we're still technically streaming, Tim. Keep the headphones on.
Tyler, I meant to mention this when we were talking about barrels. Barrel aging doesn't seem to be as much of a thing with beer in general as it used to be.
There was an article out of Boston. I read the article. I did not bring it up because I thought it might be Boston exclusive, kind of Boston heavy.
Boston-esque.
We have a benefit of places like Orpheus that do just an absolute shit ton of barrel aged beers. So I never think about the shortage, but the person wrote in to I think an author about beer, I forget the exact thing, saying what has happened to all the bourbon barrel aged beers we don't have anymore.
Yeah.
And the story was like, you're right. A lot of this stuff has disappeared. It's not happening anymore. And I thought, I think it was Boston. It's just those guys. They don't have to. Yeah, we're fine. But I think we are fine, but we may be isolated in that everybody else is no longer doing the bourbon barrel aged stuff.
I do see them around here that people do them, but I don't see them. Yeah, it'd be delicious too. Tyler's going to eat a barrel aged turd. You know what, Tyler? Let us know when that goes down. We're going to have you join us on the show. We'll stream it.
We're going to get you on video.
We'll even let you dip it in a little bourbon before you.
They got bourbon barrel aged maple syrup. You can dunk it in that.
Yeah, that should work, man.
Oh,
that should
great.
Work. Yeah. But we good, man. The oaky notes.
Oh, yeah. So oaky. This dookie is so oaky.
A little oaky, little tones of peanuts and corn.
That's right.
So
corn.
Yeah.
Corn.
It's corn.
It's corn.
It's got the juice, man. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out with us here. We greatly appreciate it. We'll be back next week to do it again. Come hang with us one more time. Y'all have a great week. We'll see you soon. Cheers.